So much to talk about. Okay, I've made a lot of videos about
all over the world.
Whoops,
That is
hang
the
on.
beauty of my job. And
Hang on. Oh, got it. I have made a bunch of videos about like why you don't want to leave the trouble inside of a horse. And I was thinking about this today because it's a crisp fall afternoon, 60 degrees outside. It's like, I don't know, this is like the most difficult time of the year most of the time. Today wasn't too breezy, but yesterday was really breezy. There was like a little storm that kind of blew over and then blew out. And so the horses were on edge. And my horse was fabulous yesterday. No concerns yesterday. Which was awesome. But that kind of leads into my storytelling time for today, which is that yesterday, you know, there were a couple horses that were struggling just because of the weather. And again, this is fall. They always do this in fall. And then we got this new horse turned out with some of the other horses, and he's really worried. And so he's added a lot of stress to an already stressful situation because all horses are really stressed out by him. And then there's some attachment stuff, like specifically every time my horse gets out, the other horse loses his mind, and then one of the other horses gets all freaked out that horse is all freaked out. It's not great. So anyway, I was thinking about this whole idea of like leaving the trouble inside the horse because of the comparisons that I saw yesterday and today between my horse and somebody else's horse and how I handled things and how she handled things. Yesterday was a little different in that than today, in that her horse was a lot more fractious yesterday than mine. My horse was fabulous yesterday. He didn't have a lot of worry in him. What he did have, he let go. He got really feely off me in a hurry. He had been great the day before too, so I wasn't too surprised that he came out. That's so true. I mean, it wouldn't have been unreasonable for him to feel a little bit of worry because it was like thunderstorming. So it was just about to thunderstorm anyway. So he was great, and I didn't really have to do very much, but the other person, her horse was pretty fractious, and what I noticed was she tried to take her for a walk, and from what I could see, she spent a lot of time just standing there in one of the arenas. And I think I know what she's doing because there's a video going around about letting the horse basically stand there and space off until it sighs a relief, and then you ask it to go forward. You know, you start making a request of it again, which there's some logic to that to me. And it's actually something that I've been doing with Iceman, but I'm doing it in a different way because when I do what I'm doing with Iceman, I'm really waiting for him to let go of his thought. And he's so obvious to know when he lets go of a thought because Iceman really, there's a footnote to this whole thing too that's related to Wyatt and Iceman. Iceman really, he talks to you, literally. He will let out a breath when he's let go of his thought. So even if I couldn't see his eyes or feel it in his body, which granted I can, he lets out his breath a lot. Whereas my horse, it's more his jaw that he lets out than his breath. So in any case, that's what I'm waiting for him to release his thought. And I'm not sure that they always are waiting until that horse has released their thought. Sometimes, I mean, it's a long search, let me tell you, with very little help. Whereas I might hurry that along a little bit, not by adding more pressure, just by encouraging that horse to get with me a little bit sooner. So it's different roads, different destinations. But what I really noticed today, because I think it's really related to the same idea. I don't want to say the name of the technique because I just don't want to say the name of the technique that they're using. But let's see. What I really noticed today was both these horses. So today was different. Both those same two horses came out pretty worried. That's not quite true. My horse actually showed up a little shut down, and then there was like a specific thing that happened that woke him up, and he had some worry, and then he actually let go of the thing that spooked him really fast, and I was stoked about that. But then he kind of had that energy in him, and it woke him up, so he kind of felt like he needed to he went back to an old feeling that he has where he feels like I'm chasing him and I'm not really chasing him. And in the first instance here, I was super stoked with how fast he worked through this and let it go, because I didn't even have to interfere very much to get him to let it go. I mean, it was kind of a legitimate thing. Two things happened at once that were kind of worrying to him, and I think he was just he just had that little bit of an edge anyway, and then so he had to spook a little bit. But what he didn't do, that if I compare that to a year ago, one, he might have run and bucked a lot harder, and two, when he finally quit, he probably would have reared, and he did not do that today. In fact, what he did instead, when I asked him to move off, instead of rearing, was he lowered his head and breathed a sigh. He had this glow in his eye instead of this look of resentment and pissed offness. And I think that's something that I've really been thinking about with Wyatt that's changed, is that I feel like until the last 6 months it's probably been since December, January, so 6 to 10 months. As recently as December of last year, he was really feeling like shit was my fault. And somewhere in January and February, probably what changed is me, to be honest. And so therefore he started to feel less and less like I'm the cause of his feelings. And today I really felt like he was really processing that maybe the cause of his feelings weren't coming from me. So super stoked with how quick he let that go. I mean, I don't know that he could, short of not having had the feeling, he couldn't have let it go much faster. So I was super happy with that. And then he did feel like he needed to rush off a bit, especially going right, which we know that's the harder way for him. It wasn't as bad as it has been, like his knee. So I was kind of happy with that. Like, he didn't really need to blast around. It's more like he feels like he has to. Like, he feels like I'm going to chase him is the way I feel it from him. And I tried something a little different today, which I noticed I haven't been trying something different with that problem for months. I tried something a little different today, and I felt like it made a little bit of a change. So I'm going to try it again the next time it comes up and see what happens. I don't know if it will help, but it was something that I saw Julie have a different client do actually in a very similar situation. But the client was maybe not going to be too effective. But the reason why I have a hard time, because there's certain things I can't do in this particular round pin because the footing's not very good, and I'd rather take a longer road than break my horse. I don't want him to slip and fall. So anyway, the point here is that this horse didn't have a perfect day, right? He had the spook, then the spook brought up the feeling in him that he needs to flee. Deep down, I believe that this horse never really had a bucking problem. What he's always had is a runaway problem. And if you watch him when he's saddled, he would much rather actually run off. He just doesn't get to the running off, because if he's on the rope, he kind of has to buck instead of run off. See, I think he's really I think as much as of a bucking horse, I think he's a runaway too. Not that he wants to do that, but that he had that option taken away from him, which produced the buck. And that he has been made to feel quite a lot in his life that he needs to run away. Is so deep inside of him, and he's so protective of the right side of his body. In any case, I just felt like that horse came through that pretty good. Even when I went to take him for a walk, he was really good. And then he got spooked again by something. He was really good about a couple things that maybe he hasn't been good about in the past. And so I was super happy with that. I decided to challenge him a little bit. And then he was good with walking around the dressage court. The footing was awful, so I wasn't about to have him trot in there. That seemed mean. He did spook leaving the dressage court, and that kind of just felt like, you bumped the table in the middle of the night. It was really about all the other things that led up to it. And then he got kind of animated and mad because Angus was sweet Angus. Dude, the light is red. Fuck off. I don't know what this person's problem is. The light was literally red. I stopped at a red light and they honked at me. Sweet Angus was, I would really want to go on the freeway as slow as possible right now just to irritate this person. You bet. They're gonna swerve around me here. So Sweet Angus was doing exactly what he was supposed to be doing, which was he was sitting on, he was laying down out of the way, and Wyatt spooked, and Wyatt kind of like ran over the top of him a little bit. And you know, Wyatt had really, the lady's crazy. What is it? Anyway, Wyatt could have easily just smushed over the top of him. He chose not to. Angus ran off, which I don't blame Angus at all. Angus was literally just trying to save his own toes. Now I gotta be honest. Wyatt's front feet landed inches from Angus, so tell me he doesn't know every inch of his little body. He could have easily, and he kind of leapt up. He didn't rear. He leapt up and he kind of bounced a little bit. He could have easily just taken Angus out. A different horse would have, to be honest, because a different horse wouldn't be that careful. And then he kind of had a little bit of worry, and I worked on that a little bit, and I got him to take a nice deep breath, and then I was like, all right, we're done. So not a perfect day, but what I can tell you is that horse had that tension in him before I pulled him out of his stall, and I just remembered something. He had all that tension in him before I pulled him out of his stall. I had to get it out. I couldn't just leave it in there, or it's gonna brew and rot and be awful. So listen to part 2 here in a second.